I know what it is. I know what it is.
Creepy fingers. That's what it
And
is.
y'all know what it is. It's your boys. It's me, Robert Solomon, it's Spider, and it's Steven the Intern back to you for another episode of This Uncanny Earth, episode number 285. James, what is up? James is the homie. We got to send James a care package because James has always been here on time.
Yes.
He's a solid dude. He's the only
Perpetual
person.
first.
He's the only person out of everybody we know that shows up on time. Everybody else slacking. So the rest of you bums better
including
stop
ourselves.
Including ourselves. We are a little bit late tonight, but it is what it is. We're here. Welcome everybody. James, we love you, man. You're a good dude. Tonight we're talking about alchemy, and I got a little alchemical book with me tonight. This is the Shams al-Makharif, the Arabic grimoire that we're going to be summoning some jinn tonight. No, we're not going to summon a jinn tonight, you guys. Calm down. Calm down.
Spider might,
of course, me and Spider are not wearing the same shirt. He's wearing a Transformer shirt. I'm wearing a Flatwoods Monster Braxy shirt. Y'all know what it is. Hey, I love James. James, you're the most solid dude ever, bro. You're always
He needs
here.
a t-shirt. I got
friends of mine. I got people that I know that don't even show up like you do. So I appreciate you, man. For real. I appreciate you. We got Steven the Intern who's still living in outer space. So if you guys donate to us at Patreon, he's got some gloves on now. Now he's wearing gloves because his hands are cold in the middle of summer. Ooh. If I see you wearing those gloves around me in the summertime, I'm kicking your butt, Steven, because it's
in
hot.
space. No one can hear you shiver.
In space, he can wear those cold gloves, but if he comes back to Earth, he's getting a beating because don't wear them damn gloves. It's hot. I love you though. You're good. Tonight, alchemy. Gentlemen, what do you have to tell me about what you've got going on?
Well, I know Steven is super fired up about this, so I don't want to take his thunder right off the bat.
I do not.
I'm going to let him take the reins right off the bat.
I don't want to take his Roman reigns. Yeah. He's Steven,
yes.
Go ahead. This is your show. We're going to leave, and you're going to do the whole show by yourself.
Oh, okay. So I got you.
Later.
All right. So
let's make this official. we go.
All right. So tonight we're talking about alchemy. The alchemists sought to control the natural world, and in their lab they would melt copper into a large vat before adding a strange red powder they believed could be used to turn one metal into another through transmutation. Oh, you're back. Hello.
We decided to come back to make sure you're not ruining our show.
Okay. For this show. That's fair.
Because we can't rebrand it. We can't afford to rebrand like some other shows that we won't talk about.
Yeah. Definitely not talking about that.
Go ahead.
There's something else you're talking
about? Oh, okay.
You talking about something else?
It's like,
okay, so
are we having a show? What are we doing?
Okay. Alchemy can be found with its roots in China, as well as Greece, Egypt, and the Islamic Empire. And the ancient Chinese alchemists believed that gold had an abundance of yang, which could help to ward off evil, and many people used to take pills of elixirs with gold, trying to help them lead better lives. Now, yin and yang is an ancient Chinese belief where it's like, you need an equal balance of both good and evil, heaven and hell, Satan and God, however you want to look at it. The world needs balance, or else everything will become utter chaos. So basically, they believed that gold had an abundance of what was like the good side of the world, So that's why they wanted gold. So in 144 BCE, the Emperor Jing enacted a new law warning that anyone creating artificial gold without a license would be severely punished, and as a result, this sent many alchemists underground into hiding. And eventually, when his son Wu took over the throne 10 years later, he not only allowed alchemists back into the city, but he even made the alchemists his trusted advisors, believing that they could control nature itself and that he wanted their power under his control. And then years later, in 133 BCE, Wu met a traveling alchemist who offered him a mineral called cinnabar, which the alchemist claimed the mineral could grant eternal life and easily be made into gold. Now, Emperor Wu was never able to transmute his cinnabar, as he died in 87 BCE, but the royal family didn't give up, and they believed that eventually they would discover the secrets of immortality. So I'm going to let you talk for a minute. What do you think about this so far?
So what we have to understand is alchemical mixtures are like yin and yang, positive, negative, because alchemy at its core root is based off the concept and principles of being able to take the non-matter and make it matter. So what happens is when you have Paracelsus or you have uh um what's his name? Begins with an F. Come on, Deadpool.
Alcanelli.
Falconelli.
That's
You're
my favorite.
for things that have to be brought out from nothing.
Yeah.
Your alchemical mixture of turning in lead to gold is a twofold concept. One, it is turning lead to gold in the basic essence that here is lead, here is gold.
Yeah.
What is
Two different things, right?
what is the mixture to create one from another? As above, so below, even exchange, right? We're talking Full Metal Alchemist level kind of stuff here. So you're doing an even exchange, or do you have to exchange one thing to gain the other? Alchemy is all about principle. What you have to understand about alchemy is, and alchemy is a beautiful thing. You have to understand sometimes it takes the lead aspect to summon the gold aspect. However, in the case of the Shems al Makharif, you have to summon a being to help you intercede for those things because you can't always dwell on yourself to understand these things. Sometimes you need to summon a being from another realm or another ideology to come forth and sort of help you um, become led to gold. Now, sometimes summoning that being is just another form of self, like the id or the ego in your mind, right? In some instances, you're summoning a being like a jinn or a king jinn or something that will enable you to give a sacrifice, because with alchemy, you can't take an item and turn it
Without
into another item without a sacrifice in the middle. Yes, exactly. You have to have a concept or a feeling in order to summon the exact object. Like the Shims al Makharif teaches you how to summon jinn. It teaches you how to summon beings from parallel dimensions that will allow you to create the gold from which you seek from lead. But lead and gold are not always going to be just lead and gold. It's going to be this ideology to turn into this ideology with this sacrifice happening in the middle. Now, understand something. It's not always the sacrifice of a deity that has to happen. It's sometimes just you turning positive to negative, negative to positive, because negative and positive aren't necessarily a bad thing. Positive is a good thing, but negative can be a good thing too, and positive can be a bad thing. The actual essence of alchemy in and of itself is that being able to turn something to
into
something
something
else.
else.
Yes. So when you're putting something in to get something out, you have to have a middle structure to turn that something into something else, whether it be fire, whether it be water, whether it be air, whether it be earth. The elements are very important when we're discussing alchemy. And
The
that's what a
avatar.
lot of people don't understand, is that the essence of alchemy in and of itself is all about change. You're changing one thing to another, but you're not going back to the other. There's never been an alchemical process where you're taking gold and turning it back into lead. You're turning lead into gold. You're turning sadness into happiness. You're
Trying
turning
to
this
create the
into
ultimate
that.
work.
Yes, because everything is the ultimate work. That's what Paracelsus understood. That's what Falconelli understood. That's what ancient Egyptian alchemists understood, is that you're taking your lead self and turning it into a golden self. And that is the key of alchemy, is becoming better, which a lot of people do not understand, which 90% of Americans understand. I don't even think outside of me, you, and maybe like 5 other people on the entire planet truly understand, because alchemy is a chemical transformation. That's why if you read the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz, you understand that in and of itself, alchemy is transformation.
Yeah.
So like
Go ahead.
at the core concept, yes, lead into gold, right? Well, lead into gold isn't necessarily the chemical components. It's taking the bad parts of yourself, running them through a fire, and
good, right?
transforming them to a positive part of yourself. That's the key concept that a lot of people don't understand. I don't think anybody outside of me, you, and Spider himself understand this.
I
Because
actually wanted. Oh, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
People don't care about alchemy. They don't
I
care.
wasn't trying to cut you off. My bad.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, man. Go. You're
I got
good,
excited
bro.
because there's
It's
actually
okay.
been a
Get
few
excited.
things. There's been a few things you pointed out. Most recently, though, how you're talking about it being transformation, I actually heard that at down here in the bottom of my research. I think it was. I actually heard that some of the more recent people, like in more recent times, have actually had this idea that it is more about the transformation of ourselves rather than actual transformation of any minerals. And it's more of a metaphor, like the Philosopher's Stone is more of a metaphor than a literal stone.
It's
Like,
both. It's
yeah,
both.
like
It's
there's a
both.
physical object. Like they've said
Yes.
that the chalice at the Last Supper might have been
Yep.
the Philosopher's Stone, and some other things like that throughout history that they think may have been the Philosopher's Stone. But more modern people, I've heard that some of the more recent people, there's actually a growing belief that, like I said, it's all a metaphor and it's about becoming the ultimate version of yourself, like you said, through transformation.
The
No, you're right.
central concept here is less just straight transformation and more purification. Purification is at the whole center of the alchemical conversation, really. It's like if you take it just on the physical level, they're trying to purify the lead or the base metal into a noble metal.
Yes.
By doing that, you are then supposed to apply that to yourself. When supposed people who knew alchemy taught alchemy to apprentices or to people who were trying to get into the idea, they would start with the metals, because you don't go straight to the heart of it because people are going to not understand or they're not going to get it right. You use the metals as an example. You say you take this, which is just a lump of something of whatever that's useful but not useful for what you're trying to use it for, and you transmute it into something theoretically more noble and more useful than it was before. And then you
Yes.
apply that to yourself. And when you do that to yourself, it's a transformative process to become an ever increasingly
Better.
improved version of yourself on a
Yes.
spiritual level. You can apply it towards like physical health, you can apply it towards fitness, and you can apply it to all those other kind of things, but it's mostly a mental and spiritual discipline, in that by understanding how the process works, you can apply that to your own life and make your life not necessarily easier, but make your outlook better and improve how you interact with the world and how you advance on your spiritual path. And that's what's survived to the modern age. A lot of your new age groups and a lot of your left hand path folks and a lot of people involved in that kind of thing, your occult societies that take things serious, that aren't just like, oh yeah, we're gonna use Ouija boards and do whatever, and we're gonna summon demons and whatever. You toss all those guys out the window, and the people who are serious about spiritual awakening separately from the more religious path, this is how they look at it. They take the alchemical ideas and concepts and you apply it to the self, and it's a core part of what a lot of the more serious groups actually do these days.
Right. And that's the key concept of alchemy, is changing in oneself. Though alchemy is a twofold concept. It is in fact part of
Chemistry.
the lead to gold concept. Yes, chemistry. But it
Alchemistry. I
it
mean,
took sort of a different turn when Hermes Trismegistus
Transmagistus.
three times, three times, three times,
yep. I see what
three
you did
times.
there.
Yeah, you did 3 times. But he started to make it more inward, where alchemy in its purest form is both. But the original aspect of alchemy was turning lead to gold. At the end of the day, it was more of a mineral based concept because they thought, okay, here's some science. And the Philosopher's Stone was the thing that, in fact, perpetuated the concept and ideology of what is alchemy. So when we're looking at the Philosopher's Stone, it could be a book, it could be 100% a jewel, it could be a chemical mixture, it could be a plant, a flower, a person, a human, notice I said person and human because the two aren't the same. It could be an animal. It could be an animal. Anything you want it to be. But the thing of alchemy, the beauty of alchemy is it could be like an unknown object. Because the Philosopher's Stone, nobody knows what it is. If
Or
people
what it
knew what
is.
the Philosopher's Stone actually what it is, we wouldn't be having a show on alchemy tonight. We wouldn't, because alchemy would have ended with the story of, okay, we found the Philosopher's Stone, it didn't work, that's it. Because we know how the higher ups act. Let's go. Come
Yep.
on now, guys. We know how the higher ups act. If they find the Philosopher's Stone right tonight, right, we wouldn't know about it. We
They
wouldn't
would,
know.
and even if we did in the future, they would say, "Oh, it's fake. It's not real," and they would keep all the benefits to themselves.
So, what do you gentlemen think the Philosopher's Stone is? Like, if you guys had to guess, what would it be?
For me, the Philosopher's Stone is the ultimate embodiment of the process. By getting to the Philosopher's Stone, you have the revelation of what the process was supposed to be. You might not know what the Philosopher's Stone was supposed to be when you're doing the process, but once you get to it, it reveals the knowledge of everything you did to get up there, and you understand, oh, this is how this happened, and now I understand how it works. I might have been kind of stumbling around before just trying to accomplish something, but now that I've got this stone, this symbol of what it is, it explains everything that came before, and now I understand, and now I can continue the process indefinitely.
I
Steven, what do you think it is?
Okay. I think the Philosopher's Stone, like Spider said, I think it's more of like a philosophical, metaphorical type thing. And I think it's basically, for lack of a better word, enlightenment, like spiritual enlightenment, like going and, like you said, becoming the best version of yourself and working on improving your physical health, your mental health, and all aspects of your life to a point where you feel like you've gotten to a point where you're like, I feel like I can do this. If I want to go do something, I'll go do it, and being completely satisfied and content with your life. But it doesn't end there, because the immortal aspect of the Philosopher's Stone, I believe, like the lead to gold, is, like you said, working on yourself. And then the immortal aspect of it, I believe, is like changing the world in a way that will have a lasting effect long after you're gone, for the better.
Do you think alchemy is at its core about human transformation or chemical transformation? I don't mean both. What do you think it is more of? And
I
do
think
you,
it
go ahead.
would be more of like spiritual internal transformation in becoming a better person who is more content with their life.
I think, despite everything that we just talked about before then, and how people feel about what the process is like, I think the end goal really is just straight up knowledge, because that's what people got from the attempts, the early alchemical attempts. The foundation of modern science has its roots in the alchemical practices. Like, most of modern science owes everything in how we,
And
the
pharmaceuticals.
scientific process, the things that we use, the tests, the various methods, all this stuff has its roots in those early experiments with the alchemy. And it's all some people got scientific knowledge, some people got spiritual knowledge, some people got physical knowledge. It all is knowledge and the advance, because the more knowledge you have, the better a person you are. And that's
Yeah.
really the purification.
I disagree with both of you. I think 100% it was turned lead to gold. I think they figured it out. I think some of the people like Paracelsus or your Falconelli's figured it out. I don't think alchemy has anything to do with changing the inside of the person. I think that was adopted. I think people took alchemy and were like, yeah, let's make it about transformation of the human spirit. No, I think alchemy at its core is turning lead to gold. I think that is it.
Yeah,
There is no human transformation. I know I talked about it, but I think originally what alchemy really was at the end of the day, lead to gold, because they figured out that lead can be changed to gold through a process. And so they said, you know what? Lead to gold. There it is.
Count Saint
Because
Germain.
let's be honest, at the end of the day, as much as we want to sit up here and talk about, oh, it's about human transformation and the good things about people and this, that, and the third. No, it isn't. It's about lead to gold. It was about they figured out, they read old notes
I just
where
don't want
they
to get
could
my
turn
hopes up.
substances, they could turn substances to gold, like a King Midas touch, if you will, right? And so what they did was they said, you know what? We're turning lead to gold at this point, so why not do that? Let's turn lead to gold and see what happens. I think somebody failed in the process. And so they said, you know, we failed in the process, but you know what we can do? We could say that it was a human transformation thing. Let's do that. And so a lot of new
We
age
fell
people,
for it.
hooked onto it.
Yep.
But I think
I
alchemy at
can
its
see that.
base, alchemy at its core, is about changing minerals. It's about changing actual minerals.
The
Lead to
Asians
gold,
tried to
lead to
use
brass,
mercury and
lead to
sulfur.
steel, things like that. I think alchemy itself is more of a actual sit in a laboratory and change minerals to minerals. I don't
And
think it has anything to do with human transformation. As much as people want to sit around and say, yeah, I was the old me, I'm the new me because of alchemy. No, it is not.
to support your theory, though, like you said, with all that stuff, the ancient Asians and Chinese, they actually did try to do that with mercury and sulfur. And there
Yes.
have been, and like you're saying, I could see that as a possibility as well, because they wrote all their books and stuff in such codes and metaphors and,
Yes.
ciphers and all this other stuff, because they said that knowledge was so dangerous to normal basic men, like
Yes.
humanity, humankind, whatever. And they thought that knowledge was so dangerous. And then look, Falconelli tried to warn us, and he's like, if you put these, for lack of a better word, like chemicals, materials in this particular shape, in this particular
Yes.
order, you'll make
Yes.
something that could take out a whole entire city. And then next thing
There
you
it
know,
is.
we did it, and we got the atomic bomb.
There it is. And see,
The
that's
atomic
what people don't
pile.
understand. I think what they did was, and this is what a lot of new age people do, and this is what I don't care for. New age people will take alchemical ancient concepts, they will rewrite them, right, to fit some personal journey narrative that doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. The old alchemic ways, which I've studied on numerous accounts, whether it be the Shimza Macharif, whether it be other alchemical texts, they were all based in chemical compositions. And if you take chemical compositions and add them to each other, you have
You
a
change
recipe for disaster. So if you take
chemistry.
ammonia and bleach, right? Ammonia and bleach create mustard gas, right? You can't put them together because it'll kill you,
You
right?
can, but you shouldn't.
Well, no, you can. You should. Right. You can. You 100% can without a debate. But I think alchemy at its core root is more of creating minerals. It's changing one mineral composition to another. It is the pre-chemical thing. It is pre-chemistry, right? That's
Yeah.
why the chemical wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz was 100% a chemical mixture. Not the thing is, I think what happened is they figured out that alchemy is a dangerous concept, right? So the first thing they did was, how can we change this to where people can still read it,
but not
but at the
understand.
same time not understand it? Let's make it more of a human transformative process. So let's make it to where, oh, it's so internal. It's an internal thing. I'm doing an alchemy on myself. No, you're not. And alchemy itself is mineral to mineral. And so when you're taking a mineral, transferring it to another mineral, you have to have a catalyst. The catalyst is the middle aspect. So if
The
you
Witcher.
have lead, you have gold, what's the middle part? What is the middle part in all this? Right. Like, what is the middle part in all this? For me, alchemy is more of a chemical actual equation where you have to add this much to create this with this much. So you say you drop two things, right? You drop 2 drops of whatever, right? You either heat it, you freeze it, you let it get to room temp, you melt it, you do whatever you can, right? Then you have your final output. I don't think it's a human thing. I don't think it's like, so I just worked on myself. I put a little bit of alchemy here in column A and column B, and I'm me. No. Alchemy is very dangerous. Alchemy is the most dangerous thing on the planet because if we think about it, if we take chemistry, right? You take so much of chemistry A and chemistry B, you combine them, like you said, you get a nuclear bomb, right? Alchemy is pre-chemistry.
Yep.
Alchemy
it's
is
even more
pre-chemistry.
dangerous.
And even more dangerous because it is the final output, as AJD, my brother, has said. It's not like I was just sitting at home, I had a coffee, I had a latte, or I had a chai tea, or I had this, that, and the third, and I decided to be alchemical. No, dummy, you didn't. Because alchemy takes chemicals. It takes legit minerals. It takes a legit medium, and it takes a legit final point. And usually the medium is fire, because fire is a purification method.
Yeah.
So if you take substance A, you got to purify it, get it in its final form to get to level B. It's not some new age crystal nonsense. And that's my problem with alchemy, is that it's not an internal thing. It's not some hippie's wet dream, as it were. It is 100% a chemical equation. That's it. Because if we look at books like this, and we look at books that Spider has probably read multiple times over, they're telling us something in these texts. They're telling Spider something in the text that he's read. Because I know Spider, he's a good dude. He's very knowledgeable about this stuff. And of the books he's read, I guarantee they give you minerals that they're transforming. But they'll tell you it's a human transformative method, but it's in code. Everything is in code because it's a dangerous thing. Like you said before, you said it's not a spiritual allegory. You're right. It isn't. There's nothing spiritual about alchemy at all. When you go back and you actually read about alchemy it was taking roots. It was taking plants. It was taking this, that, and the third, burning them,
That's how they make
melting
our
them,
modern day medicine.
watering them, combining them to
pharmaceuticals.
make the next big thing. It wasn't like, I'm sad, let me add a little bit of tea, now I'm happy. No.
Not
That's
that
what they
easy.
want you to think. I really think that is what they want you to think, that it's a spiritual process. The spiritual process is in the chemical equations. So like when they're telling you, like the chemical wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz, which I 100% I recommend you read this, because it's giving you the chemicals in the studies that they're giving you, right? with Christian Rosenkreutz, who was a follower of, come on, nobody?
Fulcanelli?
Rosicrucianism.
Ah, okay.
He was the follower of the Rosy Cross, right? The Rosicrucians actually have the formula for alchemical equations. They will pump it up like it's a spiritual thing, but if you actually ever read Rosicrucian doctrines, teachings, things of that nature, the old stuff is chemical equations. That's the thing. It's chemical equations. The newer stuff, the Amarak, are more about the spiritual concept, but that's not what it is. The old Rosicrucians were all about chemical mixtures, because why wouldn't you be? We're talking about a time when people were still finding out about minerals. They were finding out about plants. Everything was going into a specific direction. How do you misdirect people? Make it all about spiritualism, because that's what you do. You give people the concept of you're going to die one day, so you need to be spiritually ready, right? So yeah, that's the way to go. But alchemy is different. Alchemy is mineral, catalyst, mineral. Not spiritual, catalyst, spiritual, mineral, catalyst, mineral. Because alchemy in and of itself is chemistry.
I would argue that
chemistry. Alchemy is the precursor to chemistry. That's what it is. Because you can still have your transformation in your person, right?
Yeah.
But that's not alchemy. Alchemy, because you're the same person.
It's a side effect.
You're the same person. Rosencreutz. There's some disagreement about the meaning of the name Rosencreutz. Traditionally, it's translated as rose cross, but there is reason to believe it is originated from a subtler alky. Alky. That's Craig. He's an alky. I love him. I'm kidding. I love him. That's my guy. I love him. Spider's a good dude. I mean, I gave his name away. We got to rebrand. Rebrand, guys. Quit. Rebrand. But the thing is, look at what a rosy cross is, right? Rosy cross. The rose and the cross. Look at the minerals of the rose and the cross. Look where the minerals that create the rose and the cross come from. A cross is made out of wood. Beams of wood, right? Certain kinds of wood. Certain kinds of wood that only exist. I'm not going to say it. I can't say too much tonight because y'all go out there and try to do it. Then y'all get like, we'll sue this Uncanny Earth. But the thing is the rosy cross. That's the key concept of alchemy at some aspects. Some veins of alchemy are very much, you have to read between the lines of spirituality, because why not? If you want to hide a concept of chemical equations, hide it in plain sight and hide it under religious doctrine, because this way people will think you're crazy. People will think you're nuts, right? People will think, oh, that's a cult, this, that, and the third, or they're crazy, or that spider guy drinks too much. Yeah. See, I love him, but he drinks too much. No, I'm kidding. But tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong. Spider doesn't drink too much. He drinks the perfect amount.
No, he does not. You must know. You don't know him. I know him personally. He drinks too much. Nah, according to him. But the thing is, the Rosy Cross, there's a gold aspect to this. Now, remember what gold is. Gold is the most important metal in ancient history, right? Gold is the quintessential metal. Yes, it's everything. It's in semiconductors. It's in motherboards. It's everywhere you want to look, right? So gold is the key concept. I'm just saying, like, as much as people would say, yeah, it's a self-improvement journey, it is not a self-improvement journey. And by any means, alchemy is just pre-chemistry. That's all it is.
Part of the confusion and all that too, because at this point it's largely academic.
It is. You're right.
Because it's such an old concept, and by old I don't mean it's just a few decades or 100 years or some 100 years. It's truly an ancient concept because they can trace back the 4 phases of alchemy, which is the different colorations of the materials in search of the philosopher's stone, all the way back to the 1st century. By then, it was something that was already established, which means you have to think about how much information we've lost between then and now, or that's been reinterpreted, or that's been telephoned, or whatever.
Telephone is a good concept too. I like how you said telephone.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's just good, like
because
that's the old game.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. I don't mean to, but telephone is a good wordplay on this, because that's what it was. Because why not confuse people by telephoning it, right? Like, say, yeah, man, you want to turn lead to gold, you got to have this key concept. Turn lead to gold, you have the key concept. Turn lead to gold, you have the concept key. Where it's a switch now, so now it just takes on a life of its own. Now you have the whole thing muddled in what you think it should be, so it never truly gets realized. And I'm glad you made that point, because now it makes sense, and it should make sense to everybody out there listening.
Even before that, because we can trace it back to the 1st century, we don't know how old it was before then. And that's the difference, because we do know that just from a physical standpoint, gold was important before then for reasons that are different for what's important now. A lot of times now we have an arbitrary value to it, and it's pretty. We put it on jewelry, put it on whatever, but we know that it's an electronic component. We know it's very important for electronic components. And we know that ancient people hoarded gold, sometimes for no particular reason at all. Sometimes there's accounts written that they would just, like, certain people in South America, when the Spanish arrived and talked to the Mayans and the Incans and wherever, there'd be hordes of gold, and they would ask them, where did you get this? Why do you have it? and because it would just be in piles sometimes. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
even worked into anything. It would just be in piles. And then it'd say, we've always been told to collect it by our deities or by whoever. And that could have been thousands of years before them. They have no idea why they're collecting it anymore, because maybe somebody in the past needed it for something. And so the whole concept, the whole idea could be rooted in a bit of chemistry that's so ancient that we have no idea how to pinpoint where it began.
I think the key point in all of alchemy is that the transformation process. What does it take to turn this mineral to this mineral? It's not the two minerals in and of itself, because you see, if you have lead, you can get lead anywhere, right? You can get lead wherever you want to get lead. You go buy lead tomorrow, right?
It's what
You
you
get
do to the
gold. You
materials,
go buy
right?
gold tomorrow. You can go buy those two minerals right now. Key concept. What does it take? What is the middle process to turn one to the other? And I think that what we have to understand is, without that concept, we don't know how to do these things. I think the higher ups do. I think that the elite, as we would call them, and I'm going to get a little conspiracy for a hot second, guys. I think the elite know how to do this. They know how to do this method, right? Because if you have money, you can buy books. You can buy ancient tomes that talk about chemical equations. You can buy ancient books that talk about all kinds of things, because money talks. And people out there that don't say money talks have never had money. You've never had a damn dollar. And you're right, AJ, that there are articles out there that explain it, but some articles are missing the basic point. Oh, Spider's doing contemporary theater right now.
Yeah, don't mind me over here. I'm communicating with the demons.
Oh, wow. And Spider dies tonight. When we were young and in love again. I think that what we have to understand, it isn't about the two minerals, it's about the middle point. Fire, water, earth, and air. Because a lot of times with alchemical equations, they say that it takes that intermediary to make the other thing happen. Thoughts?
And if you go back, if you look at chemistry, the four elements aren't called that, but they are essential building blocks in chemistry. When you have I know people have all seen the movies where they're doing science experiments and you've got the test tubes and the beakers and all that other kind of stuff. That's based on real stuff where you're distilling things or you're moving the chemicals around. You have solid, you have liquid, you have a gaseous form, you have and you use fire to cause a lot of this, use heat to do all this. So all the four elements are inherent parts of the chemical process to begin with. You just don't think of them as the four elements. You think of them as, oh, well, I'm using this chemical and I'm using this and I'm heating it with a Bunsen burner and it's turning into gaseous form here and it's liquid form here. But it's the four elements. And you use that in almost every single chemical reaction that you do in a particular scientific setting.
And that's the case. What do you gentlemen think is the middle process for alchemy?
I don't know exactly how to do it, but maybe something to do with plasma, since we don't know very much about that.
I was about to say plasma is an interesting point in the
'Cause it's
elements
like
that exist.
a weird element.
Spider.
Oh, I thought you were going to continue.
Oh,
No, go
that's all I got.
I'm again going to lean on to outside the norm, and I think the missing element is the person involved, to be honest. I think the person doing the experiments, making sure that they write down the okay, well, this didn't work, so let me try this. This did work. I'll keep doing this. I think the human element is really the part that's missing in a lot of this stuff, because it's the idea to keep on going until you get the process right, to keep experimenting until something goes the way it needs to.
And people
Without
give
that,
up.
it's just a static process and nothing happens. You have to actually manipulate the events.
But how do you do that to make a perfect chemical equation? And do you think that process can't be done because the environment we live in today? And I don't mean environment like a political or
Oxygen levels.
anything like that, but because of the way the earth works, that environment can't be recreated.
That's a potential. A lot of it too is that science today, when you say, oh, it's science, it's said in a way that makes it sound really simple, makes it sound like it's just some, oh, yeah, that's how science works. You do this and this and that happens. But chemical processes are not like that. Chemical processes, even if you know what you're doing, even if you have everything set up just right, something can go different. Something can change based on the environment you're in, if it's not as clean as it should be, or if there's a different air pressure or a lot of different things. And I don't think we take that into account anymore. I think a lot of people are just like, okay, well, this will happen and this will happen and this will happen. We take it for granted. And the missing part to all of that, I think, is still the actual experimentation. I think the missing piece is not accepting the results straight off the fact, because that's what a lot of people do. And I'm not going to say what it is from the last few years because we had kicked off of YouTube again. But the phrase "trust the science" is one of my least favorite phrases right now, because science isn't always the same. It's not a static process. It's not something that will always be the same every time. There's always a chance that it's going to be different, that you're going to get a different result based on different variables. And I think that's what's missing. I think with so many things, with our scientific studies, our medical fields, and a lot of other places, we're stuck into a assembly line kind of thinking, where you do this, this is your result every single time. And it's not true, because there's always something that could be different.
I think with alchemy, you have to understand that, like, to create lead from gold in the basic concept, you have to have the perfect everything, right? No deviations, because then you're going to transform to a different mineral. But what if that? Oh, no worries, Lighthouse Flame. It's all good. Well, I appreciate you. I'm glad I read it out to you the other night. Thank you for being here. If one of my moderators is in chat on Twitch, can you please give them a shout out? I would greatly appreciate it. I'm not on Twitch right now, so I can't give you a shout out. I would. But thank you, Lighthouse Flame. And thank you for the follow. I didn't get to thank you for that, so thank you. You're awesome. But I think that with alchemy, you have to have the perfect sequence of everything that goes on. So if you have if you say you're converting those Kelvins and Fahrenheits and Celsius, and you convert wrong, you're creating a different mineral. You have to have perfect everything every time to create lead to gold. But what if that's the point? What if the point is to take lead and turn it to a whole different metal? Platinum, things like that. That's where I go with that.
Which makes it all in the experimenting.
There it is. There it is. And that's the point that I think a lot of people miss out on. They don't get that the necessity of alchemy is to take a poor metal and make it a better one. Make it a much more increased metal. That's all I'm saying. What do you guys think?
About turning the metal into a better metal is the goal of alchemy?
Yes.
I think it makes sense. And like you said, why should it stop at gold? Why not go all the way to platinum? Like, it makes sense.
What if there's something better than platinum?
That we don't know yet.
Because there is, obviously. That was more of just, but honestly,
but keep going. Never stop.
Yes, never stop. Because the metals that we use, there'll always be something better.
That's why
there it is.
In the true alchemical supposed masters, people who said that they were alchemical masters, who wrote the books and everything, when they talked about the great work, they said the great work is never ending. They said the great work continues throughout your lifetime. And even once you've accomplished it, it's not finished. And that's where a lot of the extra concepts come from, because then you extrapolate that into the spiritual whatever. But that's the point. And that's what all scientific endeavor should be. It should be constant, continuing to experiment, continue to test, continuing to advance your knowledge without just taking what you get as this is what it is, and that's full stop. Is to
And
continue with the experiment. The great work is the great experiment.
there it is. And here's the thing. Once you understand, here, I just want to say this too, because I think a lot of people think that, okay, lead is the only thing you can use. No. What if lead is just the poor metal at the time, but now we have an even poorer metal or a better metal that you can use to transfer to the next metal? I don't know. That's me personally. Like, I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people out there, and people listening to the chat. Catalysts are your friend with all chemical reactions. Yes. Catalysts are the most important part. It's not the minerals that are the most important piece of the puzzle. It's how you take one metal, and whether you melt it, whether you freeze it, whether you submerge it, whether you hit it with a hammer,
Bop
right?
it, zap it.
It's right, bop it, zap it, twist it, right? Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's those things that will tell you what the better metal is. And I think until, or maybe some of these elitists already have it. They already know how to turn this to that. And I think we could look at maybe some of the radioactive era that we have lived in, the 50s, 40s, 30s, and even today, as to what happens. Because if, and I mean to make my voice crack there, if you take radioactive material, right, and you use it, what does it do to the surrounding areas? Now, we know that the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings left shadows. There's a chandelier above Steven's head, so there's a lie. You're not you're on planet Earth. How dare you, sir?
The space is a lie.
Space is the place. Space is the place. Yeah. All right.
It's green screen.
Lies. Can't believe I've been lied to this whole time. I don't like this at all. But no, if we take and understand how radioactive particles work, isotopes and things of that nature, then how does radioactive minerals like uranium, palladium, things like that, how does that change the alchemical narrative? How does that change the alchemical narrative? Yeah. But seriously, how does that change it? That's all I'm saying.
The radiation.
How does radiation change alchemy?
It changes people. Because
hold on. How do we turn uranium into a weapon?
Stack it in a particular shape, I think.
Craig, how do we spider? Ooh. We broke the fourth wall.
You have to enrich it. And I'll admit, I've never sat and studied, how do I create a uranium weapon? So I don't really have direct knowledge of that, but I know it's a process of enrichment, which it means you have to have a lot of it. You have to concentrate it. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. Apparently, you can do it with third world countries.
Wait a minute. Let me stop you there. Okay. You're banging around molecules and atoms. Okay. That's how a fusion reaction, right? You're fusing molecules, right? On a whole nother level, which in a way, my boy is right. However, doing so causes chemical reaction. That's all
it's
I'm saying.
Funny, like as a little tangent, it reminds me of a movie I saw that my dad had when I was younger. It was called Young Einstein, and it was a comedy.
I remember this.
And the guy who was supposed to be Einstein was an Australian who didn't intend to create an atomic process. He instead was trying to figure out how to remove bubbles from his beer. And he figured out how to split the atom, which created a atom bomb. And then people locked him up so they could steal the secret from him by telling him he was crazy and things like that. And they wanted to create atom bombs to use all over the world. So he was the real
atom bomb baby.
But that's the basic, like, splitting an atom and causing that energy release. And there you have the first atomic reaction. So a lot of, if you're trying to do controlled reactions, that is definitely a part of the alchemical process, because you're trying to control what you get. You're trying to control the end result, and by controlling a reaction. So it's an interesting kind of eh, I don't want to say coincidence, but it coincides, I guess, with the idea.
So, gentlemen, if I could ask your opinion, what do you two think alchemy actually is?
I think I liked Spider's idea earlier about alchemy being this quest or search for knowledge and just like learning more.
I feel like it's both. Honestly, it's both things, because while I think there's a lot of it well rooted in the physical process, and again, it was the basis for the scientific method. It was the basis for most of our modern ideas of chemistry. You can't deny that it was part of the physical everything we're doing in that area. But I think over time, the idea that it could be applied to a person is a decent idea. I think you can use those concepts to try to improve yourself in different ways. Whether that was the original intent, like I said, it's all academic at this point because it was so long ago. But I do think there's both aspects to it, and I think both aspects are important.
I disagree with both of you. I think it's just a chemical thing. I think it's pre-chemistry. That's what I think it is. I think it's a way to try to make things I think that a lot of ancient texts describe what it really is. I think it has nothing to do with spirituality whatsoever. I think it's 100% make this out of this and use this as a catalyst to turn this to this. I think what happened was they took something that was very minuscule and turned it into something that was very serious. And so they looked at it and said, you know what? No. Those spiritual in it, sir. Those spiritual it is. And so they ran with spiritual. Do I think that there could be a spiritual aspect to it? Yes, because you're creating something that is minuscule to something that is serious, right? So of course there's going to be a dynamic change within you. But as far wise as it's like, I'm going to transfer this to this, not in the slightest. To me, it's chemicals, it's chemistry, it's all this. Yes, 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 yes. What AJ said, that's what I think. It's not spiritual, not inner. It's an actual thing. It will always be an actual thing. It's not a spiritual process. There is coded wording in the chemical wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz that you should all read and understand. Anyways, guys, that's it for tonight. We hope you guys have enjoyed this Uncanny Earth. We love it. You should love it. If you don't, I don't know why me and my co-host are wearing purple shirts. It's weird. We coordinated before. What'd you guys do? No.
Did you call each other last night?
But I want to thank all of you for joining and watching. We love all of you. And we're going to keep bringing you the most uncanny things possible ever. Now, I want to take a minute to say something here, guys. On the 27th, I will not be here on the show. So you guys are going to deal with Spider and Steven going to bat with each other. I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to fist fight? Are they going to yell at each other during the stream?
We're
Are
going
they
to talk about which kind of bat is our favorite.
Are they going to tell the clouds to move away? I don't know what they're going to do.
Fruit
I don't know what they're
bats,
going to. Are they going to yell at people to stay off their lawn? Maybe they do. Not my concern. But I will be back after that for the next week on the 4th of July. We're going to have a show on the 4th of July.
Independence.
I did not realize that we're going to have a 4th of July show.
It's the freedom episode.
It's going to be a freedom episode. It is one. Yep. We're going to be talking about paranormal experiences in the United States.
Nice.
During that time. So I hope you guys are ready. Guys, it's been a pleasure. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, James. Thank you, Lighthouse Flame. Lighthouse Flame is awesome. If you have not followed him, go follow him. He's cool. He plays really interesting games that are very strategic, and I think that's freaking cool. You guys better do that. Anyways, guys, much love. You guys are freaking awesome. I love you guys. You'll have a good night, And as always, why be boring when you can be uncanny? We will see you folks next week. Peace. I should probably end the show. Should I end the show? Let me end the show. Hold on. Don't stop moving.
I'm giving him Isney.
That has another meaning in another country.